Someone distracted me, and therefore I was 1 second late in an attempt to make a joke when FK, what was his name? FK Rioter says, oh, I can see it right here. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Where was FK where he said, stop apologizing like a Canadian? And then in an attempt to make the joke and say sorry, I ended up being 2 seconds late. Good evening, everybody. This is another one of those strange crossovers that you never expect to happen until they happen. And when they happen, they're things of beauty. I spent the better part of yesterday and today digging up some dirt on Jeremy. I found nothing, but I did find some good interviews, some good movie reviews of movies that I've never seen, and some more interesting stuff. Now, before we bring in Robert, who's not yet here, I see Jeremy in the background. Everybody knows the rules, the disclaimers. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. So for anybody who doesn't want to support the YouTube beast, Rumble, where we are simultaneously streaming as well, does these things called Rumble rants, and they only take 20%. So if you want to support, Rumble is the better place to support, but YouTube is obviously most convenient for some. What else? No legal advice. Super chats are not a right of entry into the conversation. I try to bring them up in as much as possible, but if I don't bring them up and that's going to upset you, miff you, make you feel like you've been rooked, shilled, or robbed, whatever, don't give the super chat. I don't like people feeling that way. Simulcast on Rumble, no legal advice, no medical advice. And while we wait for people to trickle in, while we give the 5 minutes entry time, I'm going to go into a bit of a rant tonight. This is not a subject that touches me personally, but it touches me personally. And it's not coming from sources that I don't trust, that I don't know. This is just a story that I heard today. Everybody knows about the vaccine passports that have been implemented in Quebec. And today someone told me the story of several high school students, 13 years old, who were denied the right to try out for their high school sports team because they didn't have proof of vaccination, because they weren't vaccinated. They didn't have the QR code on their phones, and they were denied the right, and I'm referring to it as a right and not the privilege, to try out for their school sports team. And this enraged me to the point of actual tears. It enraged me to the point of making a video, which I deleted because I think it was too angry. I don't think you can get too angry on something like this, but it's as angry as I've gotten in a long time that we have implemented a vaccine passport system in Quebec. Our supreme leader, François Legault, who doesn't want to have any public debate on this, who has shown no science for this, to impose it on the population at large, has implemented a vaccine passport system on high school students aged 13 to 17. And if they don't show proof of vaccination, they are denied what he calls privileges and what I call rights. The rights to a normal childhood, the rights to their own God-given childhood. It is being taken from them by bureaucrats, by tin cup dictators who rule by fiat, who bypass the democratic process, the legislative process, to rule by emergency edict for over 2 years. And they are being turned into outcasts. They are being made to feel like dirty second-class high school citizens. They're on a field with their classmates, turned away from I'll get very angry. Turned away from trying out for their soccer team. And why? Because there's some science that shows that imposing this vaccine passport on high school students has any effect whatsoever other than crushing dreams, causing anxiety, causing social discord, causing more. Adolescence is hard enough. And when you have this thrust on you by political leaders who live in a ivory tower, who think that doing something is better than doing nothing, even if what you're doing is totally destructive. We've seen anxiety levels, self-harm, worse, going up with our young kids. We know what's going on with them. And you have this idiotic vaccine passport with no scientific basis, and which the people themselves don't want. CTV ran a poll on CTV. They got 14,000 votes, and CTV is a left-leaning outlet. 73% did not support penalizing the unvaccinated. And yet you have François Legault imposing this, not just on adults. Adults can deal with these things, maybe not better, but they can deal with these things. Imposing it on kids and denying their kids of their right to a childhood, of their right to participate in the activities that are healthy, on the basis that having unvaccinated kids playing soccer on a field or football on a field or basketball on a court are such a risk to the society at large that they shut out, cut out, and so on. And it is not a literal crime. It is criminal. It is an injustice, and it's a stain on our province. It's a stain on François Legault. It's a stain on his government. And it's a stain on all of us for putting up with it and for tolerating a government doing this to our kids. So I was exquisitely angry, angry to the point of loss of words. And it is not something that can be justified, tolerated, and promoted in a free and democratic society. And that's it. So I had to get that off my chest because I was speechless for the better part of the afternoon when people told me this. And that's it. Okay, with that said, so I got that off my chest. So now I can be a little bit, we can go on to good things like reviewing woke movies that have been absolutely destroyed by politics. Politics ruins everything. But when it starts ruining childhoods, that's the point at which even the adults should take a step back and say, what are we doing? What are we doing to our kids and what are we doing to society? Now, with that rant over, Robert is somewhere. I don't know where he is, but he's on the road, and we've got Jeremy. So I'm going to bring in Robert. I'm going to bring in Jeremy. I'm going to change the order, and I'm going to back my mic up so that I don't pop as much. Gentlemen, who would have thunk?
Who would have thought? But I'm going to have to disagree with you on something. We don't need to talk about movies. We can stay on that topic right there because I can roll with you on how much bullshit we are dealing with. So well said. Round of applause. I agree with you. And I do think that it ties into movies and what we're seeing with entertainment. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm honored to be here. I appreciate both of you. Robert, we got to meet in Vegas, and it was a pleasure meeting you. And it's an honor to be on with you guys. And Viva, I'm looking forward to this. So thank you for having me.
All right. Now, if anyone sees me sweating, it is not rage sweat. I exercised a little too close to the stream, and the basement is not air conditioned, so it's a little humid. Robert, I think everyone is dying to know now. You're on the road.
Yeah, in Greensboro, North Carolina.
All right, fantastic. No more questions on that then? I don't know. I don't want to push the limits on what we're allowed to know. Okay, so Jeremy, before we get into it, you've seen the format. You know we're going to get deep into your childhood.
Yes.
There's a kid up there who doesn't sound very happy for some reason. Give us for those who don't know who you are, I suspect everybody here does. Who are you in an elevator pitch? And then we're going to get into some childhood stuff.
My name is Jeremy. I am the owner and creator of Geeks and Gamers, geeksandgamers.com, Sports Wars, Park Hoppin', a lot of different YouTube channels you're probably aware of. And that's kind of the gist of who I am in terms of why I'm known on the internet. My background is that I've always been into the geek culture side of things, but also been into sports and professional wrestling and all of that. And I've tried to create a type of environment that brings all of those worlds into one, because I think there's a lot of crossover between the world of sports, the geek world, and then unfortunately now we're seeing the political world that's being intertwined into all of that. And Geeks and Gamers is not exactly what I intended for it to be created. Today it's evolved into this because I am seeing all of our entertainment overrun with politics and political propaganda. And so that's kind of what's brought me to this place to talk with you fine gentlemen today.
Now, I detect a bit of an accent. I think I know where you're from, but where are you from?
I was born and raised in Alabama. And now I live in Lower Alabama, which is Pensacola, Florida. It's basically Lower Alabama, the redneck Riviera. So yes, I do have that accent. Never knew I had an accent until I went to California, and people were like, "You're not from here." And I'm like, "There's something like, what's going on?" And they're like, "Yeah, that accent." I'm like, "I've literally never been told I had an accent until I came to the West Coast." So yeah, born and raised in Alabama, moved to Florida when I was 15 years old. And so I still consider this Lower Alabama, the Panhandle area.
Which part of Alabama were you from?
Well, I was born in the Phoenix City area. I mean, I guess officially, and this drives me crazy as a college football fan, I was actually technically born in Georgia, and it pisses me off that this happened because My mom, so it's right there. It's the Phoenix City area is like right there on the border of Alabama and Georgia. And so, so I was technically born in Georgia, which I don't like. But you know, so Phoenix City area. And then my dad was in the pizza business. So we moved around the state of Alabama when he would open different stores throughout like Albertville, Huntsville, Boaz, Dothan, Enterprise. So I kind of moved around Alabama for a while during my childhood while he was doing his business.
So very much northern and eastern Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
I mean, where the band Alabama was most popular.
The Great Alabama Band. Yes. Love them.
Yeah, I always am curious as to how many siblings you had and what your parents did in terms of understanding how someone grew into what they do now. A lot of siblings or?
No, only child. So only child. And I had a really good, you know, upbringing with my parents. You know, they're both, you know, very supportive of everything. You know, they never really had an idea for what they wanted me to be. They allowed me to be who I wanted to be. I was obviously heavily into sports when I was younger and, you know, had dreams of being the next, you know, NBA player or NFL football player, and then realized I just wasn't good enough. Although I do think I could have been good enough to maybe play college basketball if I would have committed to that, but never was able to, realize that. But I was big into sports when I was a kid and had those dreams of being into sports, but it just never really happened. And structure was always something I struggled with as a kid. I didn't like the structure of school. I didn't like the structure of the environment that was created. And so I struggled to be in that environment. Being in someone else's kind of rule set, I always respect everywhere I go and respect any rules in place. But when it's something I have to do on a day in and day out basis, I don't operate well within that. I'm more of a free spirit from that perspective.
Public schools, private schools, home schools?
Public school. Yeah. Public school. And I think I did really good in school until I started getting into junior high and then high school. And then I just really was just struggling to keep focus because I just wanted to play sports is all I wanted to do. Oh, go ahead.
How old are you? You look very young.
I am 42, and no one thinks that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's put it to a poll. Everyone in the chat, who looks older between me and Jeremy? Because I think I look maybe 10 years older. Oh dear God, I got a lot more gray. Maybe you're hiding some gray hair in there.
No, not at all. Of course, the internet thinks I'm bald, and I kind of keep that mystery there. I do have videos of me without a hat if people want to go look at that. But I don't drink, don't smoke, never done a drug, never smoked a cigarette, never sipped alcohol in my life. That's not to say I don't have a great diet. I don't have a great diet. I eat cheeseburgers and pizza constantly, but I will never drink alcohol. I will never smoke. I will never do a drug. It's not really a religious thing. It's just a thing that I've committed to. It's just never something I don't like things that alter my state of mind or anything like that. So I like to be in control. I'm a control freak.
Well, if I pry on that one just a little, I'll push a little bit, but not too hard. But has there been any alcoholism in the family that led to that?
Yes,
typically
there was, but that I feel like I was already on that path of the anti-alcohol sentiment because of school. Because one thing I don't like is I don't like to be forced into what other people believe or think. And so obviously when you get into that junior high school element, there's the whole, oh, it's cool to drink. It's cool to get plastered. You got to come hang out. And I'm like, why? Like all of you end up sick the next day and your breath stinks when you smoke cigarettes. Why would I do that? And then there was some family dynamic too. So it was a combination of just not wanting to be with the in crowd because I was told that I had to do that to be cool, versus obviously what I saw, how it impacted other people. And I just never saw the advantage to drinking alcohol or doing drugs. There's literally no advantage in my opinion. That's not to say that I have anything against anyone that does it. I have plenty of friends that love to get drunk, and I have nothing against that. But for me, I just never saw any value in it at all.
Now, in terms of public education, to what degree did you witness any of the, because it seems like it was a sudden transition in terms of sort of wokester ideas going in through public institutions. Did you see any of that when you were in public? Yeah, exactly. So when did you first start sort of seeing that in culture?
Obama's where, and again, I didn't see it at the time. So I'm trying to retroactively go back and see where I now see that it was happening. But at the time, I supported Obama as president because I was very much anti-George W. Bush and the Republicans at that time, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm very much a free spirit on how I am politically and just anything. I don't like to have those types of labels with politics, because I feel like that blinds you to what you're actually seeing. So I was very much like not a fan of the Republican Party, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney. So anything that was going to bring more of that, I was kind of against at the time. So I was supportive of Obama in his first term. And it's not until his second term, about halfway through, when I started to realize this guy's full of shit. And he is ruining so much of our culture with his BS, with his anti-cop rhetoric, with his racial division. And I think that's where the kind of jumping off point was Obama. And then obviously you started to see the pieces of it, kind of really creeping into Hollywood with Ghostbusters 2016. And then The Last Jedi is where it really kind of elevated to a lot of people's minds from an entertainment perspective. But I go back to Obama as to where the real kind of beginning of this woke nonsense happened.
It is interesting because now, like you say, I wasn't aware of these things back in the day. Life can only be lived forwards, but life can only be understood backwards, but has to be lived forwards. And I'm looking at Justin Trudeau, our leader, who demeanor-wise is actually, I would say, similar, or at the very least trying to replicate Obama to some extent, nowhere near as charismatic, but just divisive. And, I don't remember under any previous administration, even looking back, so much discussion about race, where the discussion itself creates the divide, and where you just end up discussing endlessly all aspects of race, identity, who outwronged who. And in the discussion itself, which serves no practical purpose, it just actually furthers the divide, where everyone only looks at each other as members of a specific clan. And now, in retrospect, I saw it under Obama at the time. I'm seeing it under Trudeau now. And I don't know how to explain it, if it's a tactic of weak leaders to try to maintain power, or if it's just a tactic of the party.
Yeah, it is. I haven't really figured out why exactly it's happening either. I do think that there's from what I deal with on a daily basis, I've really started to move into, and I tell people it's going to sound like a broken record, but the word projection is something that I am seeing so much every day. The people that call you the racist and the sexist tend to be the racist and the sexist. The people that call you the bigot are usually the people that are the bigot, and they're trying to project because they're trying to take the attention off of them, to have other people look in other areas so they can continue being the terrible people that they are. And I feel like that's a lot of that is going on. We know that politicians have always been terrible people, generally speaking. The people that elevate to the highest orders of the political parties usually are the ones that are the best at backstabbing and manipulating. That's just how it's always been. And I remember when Trump won and people were like, oh my God, the office of the president has been so tarnished. And I'm like, the office of the president, we live in a world where Donald Trump had a better chance to become president than play Batman, because we had a higher standard for who plays Batman than we had for who runs the country. Now, I'm a Trump supporter, okay? But if Donald Trump would have tried to be cast as Batman, the internet would have melted down to the point where no studio would have touched it, because we have a higher standard for who plays Batman than who runs our country. So you go all the way back through my childhood and through what I've seen with politics. Look at the people that are prominent. Bill Clinton. Why did he get prominent? Because he played a saxophone on Arsenio Hall with some sunglasses, and he was the first black president. Not because of policy. Not to say Bill Clinton didn't have good policies, but that's not why anyone was interested in Bill Clinton. It was the showmanship, okay? George W. Bush, he was the kind of guy you could have a beer with, and his dad's name carried him, not because of policy. Obama, great public speaker as long as it's scripted. A lot of charisma. The media fell in love with him, not because he was a one-term senator and a former community organizer. That's not why he was elected. And then we move on to the Trump era, and people are like, oh, politics has been ruined. Politics has always been ruined. Trump's the one that came in here and really messed everything up because he exposed all the bullshit that was going on. So that's how I've always looked at it. But in terms of your initial question, it's hard to figure out why these people continue to do this, but I think a lot of it them trying to hide their own flaws.
Yeah,
I think, go for it, Robert.
I was going to say, yeah, we like to call it confession through projection.
Yes.
Which is precisely what it is. There's a lot of a deep truth to it. And for people that don't know that part of northeastern Alabama, that's one of the most populous parts of the country going back centuries. I mean, I grew up in Chattanooga, right up the northeast corner of that, just right up the road from Huntsville and that part of the state of Alabama.
Yep.
To be honest, the more honorable state of Tennessee, of course. But I mean, in that, were your parents very engaged politically or culturally, or was it sort of more of a politics is whatever kind of thing?
Well, my mom, not so much. I mean, my dad is a conservative and he has his beliefs. It's never really was something he, pushed onto me necessarily. It was something I would witness from afar. But it was never anything that was forced into me. I mean, again, the only thing that was this is going to sound funny. The only thing that was that my parents forced onto me was Alabama football. That's it. My dad and my granddad were basically like, you're either an Alabama fan or you're not here. Yes, sir. Roll Tide. And so that's really it. Like, religious beliefs, politics, the way you live your life. Like, I think the best way to, if you're really looking for, your child to, grow into something that you're not, worried about. Like, for instance, I'm very much, I don't want my kid to be into alcohol necessarily, but that's not something I can just go, don't you ever drink or that's only going to make them rebel. And that never happened to me. I was never told that I can't drink. I was never told I can't do drugs. Never told this. I was never told that I have to think this way or have to think that way. And because of that, I was able to learn who I was on my own. And so that was just something my parents did a good job on, is not pushing their beliefs onto me per se, except for Alabama football.
Now hold that. You're 42. You went to university then, like a long time ago. What did you study?
No, I didn't. I dropped out of high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a running joke now, because the people that hate me, they just try to use it against me. So I make it a running joke. So yeah, so I didn't go. It was 10th grade, and I dropped out to work retail. My first job was Food World as a bag boy, and I was 17. And before I turned 19, I was the number 2 manager in the store, which is the youngest in the company. At the time, we had like 300 or 400 stores in the company. So I was the youngest number 2 manager in the company. And I thought my life was made. I'm like, this is it, man. I'm living the life. I'm making, good money. I've got a sports car. All of the cashiers think I'm cool. Like, I am living the life. And then I learned what corporate America is all about. And that was, so, I mean, I worked there for a while, but I'm jumping ahead a bit. But yeah, so I dropped out of high school.
That's amazing. So you drop out of high school, you get a job it's an entry-level job. You work your way up in the corporate structure. 19, you're a high manager within the chain. What happens after that? How many years do you end up working there? When do you diverge? How do you get into what you're doing right now?
I worked there for 6 years total. And it just got really political after a few years, because the manager that I worked for was highly, highly respected in this company of hundreds and hundreds of stores. But there was a district manager that got promoted that he had some history with years ago. And then that district manager was basically like wanting to make him look bad by was feeding him improper information from corporate, so that way he wasn't updating on new policies. And long story short, that guy quit, the store manager that I worked under. And so I was the next in line. So I started to get shit rolls downhill, basically. So then I was the next in line to deal with all of that. And it just was very, very weird to me, because like I said, I came in and I was a company guy. Like, I was like, I'm here to work for this company. I'm here to, work 80, 90 hours a week. I'm here to make this store look great. I'm here to, help the customers. And I was all for it. And then 4 or 5 years into it, I'm just like, I literally have no power here. I'm a high paid employee. I'm not a manager. I'm a high paid employee, and I can only do what corporate is allowing me to do, because, hey, Jeremy, I can look at this, the guy who's in the store every day. I can go, okay, that brand of mayonnaise is the best selling mayonnaise in the store, so I need to make a display of it. And then of course corporate says no, because we have a contract with this one. Okay, but my profits are down and I need to elevate the brand that's selling so I can maximize my profits. But because of bad decisions from corporate, they're cutting out my legs from up under me, so I can't do anything. And then ultimately these stores closed because It was the Bruno family. So Bruno's used to own them. There was a plane crash. The majority of the family was killed in the plane crash, and then another company bought it. And it just the cuts were coming, you know, long lines, and then eventually these stores closed. And that was kind of that opened my eyes to the fact of I don't have control of my own life here, because I worked my ass off to do everything I could to elevate, to move up, to be dedicated. But because of someone else that's never stepped foot in this store making decisions from a corporate office, now I'm without a job. So I did kind of bounce around with like different retail companies at that time, because that was my expertise. That's what I knew. And I had a really good resume, but I had a real chip on my shoulder after that. So I would basically work for different companies. I would show how good I was, and then I would kind of turn into a sarcastic asshole most of the time when they would see how good I am. You know, I'll work for you. Yeah, go ahead.
You're mid-20s at this point in your life.
Yeah. And so I'm just sitting there going, I'm not, you know, I'm going to show you how good I am, because I'm as good as anybody. And I'm as good as anybody in that business. So I'll go in there, I'll blow your mind. And then a month later, then I'm going to be on cruise control, because I know what you're going to do to me. You know what I mean? But I would get away with it because I was so good. But I also knew I wasn't going to give you everything. And I don't remember what age I was at when I started just getting these basic ideas of, you know, doing things on my own. I can't really remember. The one thing that I don't talk about publicly much is my direct personal life now, just because the internet, the weirdos, you know, with like family and, you know, kids and all of that. So, but there was that pattern of, you know, getting married and all of that, having kids. And so obviously anytime you have kids, it kind of derails any ideas of grand, business ideas or whatever you want to do. So those things take a back seat when you have a kid. And so then I can't remember at what point it was, but it got to a point where, so I started Geeks and Gamers in 2011. So, you know, that was how many years ago now? We're at like 10 years ago. So 10 years ago. Yeah. So I was around 32. And at that point, when I created it, I was in a time where I was spinning wheels. Like there's a line in a movie called Clerks 2 that I really love, and it's like being 30 years old and not knowing what you're going to do with your life. And I was at that point. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. All I know is I want to play video games with my friends. I want to play video games, and I want to do it in person, because this was around the time the online phase started. And I'm like, playing online is fun, but it's all based on a connection. And you can mute me if I'm talking shit to you. And I don't like that. I want you to hear me after I beat you. And you can't just turn me off with a mute button. So I came up with this idea when I was in Montgomery, Alabama, because while I did move to Florida when I was 15, I did spend some time back in Montgomery, Alabama for a short period of time. And at that period of time is when I created these video game tournaments locally in Montgomery, Alabama. And I had an idea, and I told my friends at the time. I had some really good friends, and we played video games all the time. But at the time, I had no money. I had one video game system, one copy of Call of Duty, and 2 controllers, and 1 TV. And I had this grand idea that I was like, I want to create an in-person video game tournament where we all come like arcade style, but we're playing console games. And I want everybody to play a Call of Duty tournament. Everybody puts $20 in, and the pot gets bigger, and the top 3 people split the entire pot. I need to make no money because I just want to create this. And so I threw the idea out there. The next thing I know, people are calling me. Hey, man, I heard you want to do this tournament. You can borrow my video games. You can borrow my TV. And it started happening. 5, 6, 7 people call me. I'm like, wow, we may actually have something here. So I decided, because one thing I do in life is I always try to set a goal that I don't know how I'm going to get to force myself to figure it out. And so I was like, I think we got enough support here. So 2 months into the future, I scraped up enough money, and I rented out an old Sam's Club that was abandoned, or, you know, not abandoned, but there was nothing going on in there. I rented it for the night. I set a date 2 months from that point, and I was like, we're going to advertise this. And I don't know how the hell we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. Fast forward, we did a lot of promotion, went to GameStop, handed out flyers, passed out flyers and everything. We got the employees to do it because they were my friends. The night of the tournament, we had about 100 people show up to play, and I had 15 or 20 setups. So that means I had 15 consoles, 15 copies of the game, then 30 controllers and 15 televisions, all connected so people could come play these games. And that was the beginning elements of Geeks and Gamers right there.
It sounds exactly like Fight Club, just instead of people beating the crap out of each other, it's just video games. I guess you're beating the crap out of each other digitally. Jeremy, please do the Daniel Kibblesmith impression, please. I don't know. Nothing better than seeing an inside joke and having no idea what's going on.
Yeah. So Daniel Kibblesmith is someone that almost makes Brian Stelter look manly. That's who Daniel Kibblesmith is. So.
Well, what's fascinating, I mean, as you describe sort of the 4 quadrants of a certain generational Gen X experience. In other words, the first like work ethic really still mattering, which kind of faded, like transitioned with millennials and Zoomers to where work became some sort of bad association. But that work was something that we grew up with, is something you were proud of, something that's honorable, something that's good, something that's achievement. And then the second aspect of that is how corporatized culture helped ruin the work experience. The sort of the office space is the way I think of it cinematically. That sort of environment where the sort of the professional class marketers and corporate HR, human resources. I mean, what Scott Adams has made a life writing comics about, the insanity and inanity of the very sort of HR culture. And then he transitioned into the way gaming really helped create its own sense of community, as opposed to playing games out on the street in, say, New York. It became connected. People became connected to one another and part of enjoying that culture. And then fourth, transitioning into sort of the YouTube space and recreating and reimagining old technologies or new technologies to recreate a different sense of community and sort of rebellion against the world. But it sounds like all of it was more coincidental. It wasn't like it was planned out.
Yeah. I mean, I am a guy who tries to figure it out as I go. Like I said, structure's not my strong suit, and just being able to create whatever ideas you can. And it just, the gaming culture, I mean, I've been playing games since, the Nintendo back in 1985, and it's just always created a sense of, community of sorts, with your friends and everything. And it's just the thing you have a ton of memories on. So you get to that point where you create it. And again, I just looked at it on a bigger scale, thinking back to my childhood. And so when I created those video game tournaments, I was really proud of it. And I did several of them, and it brought people together. And that was before the woke nonsense and before all of this stuff was happening. And there was never a thing about like, who's this, who are you sleeping with, what's your opinion on that. Like, it was just, hey, let's hang out and play some games. And you couldn't do that right now. You couldn't do that right now because it would be too politicized.
Well, the other thing is we also had a shared canon. I mean, like almost all great cultures and civilizations have a shared canon, and our shared canon was TV and film of a certain kind. And the effort to retcon so much of it in the name of sort of wokester politics, culture, ideas has really been shocking to witness. And it is, it's like the foundation of the destruction of any civilization or society, where you start burning the books, the great ancient books. That's basically what's been going on for about the last half decade. But how much was, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars or any of that, what were some of the sort of cultural canonic experiences for you growing up as a kid?
I always loved, G.I. Joe was the thing I loved the most as a kid. Loved G.I. Joe. That D-Day Cobra name, that's a play on, it's my gamer tag. It was part of a group of guys, but the Cobra part is from Cobra, and G.I. Joe, plus Cobra Mustangs. Mustang Cobras. I love sports cars. Very toxic of me. Yeah. And
me and all the poor kids were always Cobra, and the rich kids were G.I. Joe. I share that.
Now that we're on the subject, G.I. Joe, the end there, knowing is half the battle. What was the other half of the battle? Because I was literally just thinking of this today. Is the other half of the battle? So you have to know and do. I had a deep thought today, but maybe somebody knows. But Jeremy, you run. So it's going to get back to Robert's question here, but I just want to finish on. You get 100 people in a room for gaming. Once you get 100 people in there, that builds on its own. Those people expect that in a month. They expect that in 2 months. That becomes their release. Right. Is that what happens after that?
So I think it's always good to have a very embarrassing failure in your path to success, and I did experience that. And so we did the first tournament that was really good. Now, when I say it was really good, it was really good in terms of turnout. It was not good in terms of execution, because getting a bunch of Xbox 360s together is a great idea. But you have to do a system link, so you have to get Ethernet cords to connect them, but they all have to be updated to the same update, or they can't talk to each other. It was kind of a disaster in terms of the execution of it, but people loved it. People, like, I was very frustrated with the execution, but people were coming up to me going, "Thank you for this. This is wonderful." So I set up another tournament in about 2 months. That one went great, and we bumped up our numbers even better. And so then I started getting really confident. I'm like, all right, now we're going to do something big. So I think it was like March, and I decided, okay, we're going big time. We're going to set up multiple games. We're going to have Madden. We're going to have Marvel versus Capcom. We're going to have Halo. We're going to have Call of Duty. I'd linked up with a guy who had like a gaming trailer. So he had like, TVs and video games in the trailer, and he was going to be there. We had a big oversized kind of blow up projector screen. We went all out. I mean, I was thinking this is going to blow their minds. And this was all before I created the name Geeks and Gamers. It still had not been created at that moment. So we were just running it as Jeremy's running a video game tournament. There was no branding involved. So I set that up. The problem is I set it up during spring break, and I set it up during another big gaming tournament in Atlanta, Georgia, which is only a short, it wasn't too far from Montgomery. We probably had about 8 people show up. And you talk about the work that went into setting all of this up, the promotion, the amount of people. I had more friends and family there than people to show up to play in the tournament. It was embarrassing as hell. Like, I felt dejected. I felt embarrassed. I felt like I wasted everybody's time and money, and it was just embarrassing. And I was not going to do any more tournaments. I just wasn't going to do it. And then a couple of months passed, and I was like, you know what? No, like, I can't let one bad decision define me. I have to keep going. And that's where I started to come up with, the naming and the ideas and the logos and the branding. And so I was like, we're going to come back. We're going to come back stronger. So we decided to, get another tournament together, and it was a Super Smash Brothers tournament. And that was the first time we had Geeks and Gamers. We had Geeks and Gamers t-shirts, and my friends, we were all dressed up in our Geeks and Gamers stuff, and we knocked it out of the park. We killed it. So I was back on track, and I was like, hell yeah, we're back. And so I kept doing a few more tournaments, but one thing that, I think I did 6 tournaments total that first year, but I was starting to get mentally burnt out because I was stressing out every time we did a tournament, because at this point, I was not making any money. I was not trying to make money from these things. I was actually losing money because I was giving the whole pot to the winners. I wasn't taking a cut. I didn't want to take a cut. I was just trying to do what I could. And so I was losing money, and every piece of equipment there, minus my own one system and TV, I didn't own. So I'm paranoid that, I've got hundreds of people here, no security. And if a system goes missing, or a game gets destroyed, or a TV gets broken, I'm the one that has to pay for it. And I was stressing myself out. And so that final tournament, we had like 400 people, and it was a big, awesome tournament. And I just mentally was done with that. And I just kind of shut down on everything. And that's one time I moved to Pensacola. And, it was like a process of Geeks and Gamers was just a thing. It was an idea, and I had memories of it, but I didn't know, I was like, I'm not going to do tournaments anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. And eventually I was like, my friends and I were on Facebook, and somebody started a Facebook group for us to talk about wrestling and video games and sports. And I was like, what if I just call it Geeks and Gamers? And, we have a Facebook group for Geeks and Gamers, and that Facebook group took off, and it got like 20,000 members. And that became the kind of the center of my focus, was just building this Facebook group up. And it got to be pretty successful. I got invited to Chicago by Facebook. I got to go to a conference. Lizard Man was there. And he spoke, Zuckerberg. And that was kind of crazy to get into all that, but it wasn't really generating revenue. Then I looked at everything, and I'm watching the Facebook group, and I see that people are posting their reviews of movies they went to see. Hey, I went to see this movie. Here's my review. Hey, I went to play this video game. Here's my review. Hey, I saw this TV show. Here's my review. I'm like, why don't I create a website and have these people, instead of writing reviews on Facebook site, why don't they write the review on my site? And that's how the website started. So then the website started, and then more ideas came after that to get us to where we are. And I'll get further into that as you want to, but I don't want to take over the whole show to just tell the whole story of Geeks and Gamers yet.
I'm going to bring this one up. All hail the American juggernauts of truth. Justice in the American way, taking on the weak, woke warriors of the cancel culture communists. Keep fighting the good fight. All hail Jeremy. Hail Robert Barnes. Thank you very much. And then was a second one here that was right under it. Let me bring it up here.
Awesome.
Action is the other half of the battle. As far as Jeremy, he may seem cocky, arrogant, and sarcastic towards the haters and anti-free thinkers, but I've known him for 4 years. He's a stand-up guy, always fighting the good fight. Mika D2. Well, okay, now I don't want to forget Robert's question from earlier, but the first, I guess, the monumental moment, the movie, the cataclysmic event where you saw things go south in entertainment.
Last
You
Jedi.
have a definitive date and movie.
The Last Jedi. Okay, so I guess that's not the first time I saw it, but that's the thing that really kind of opened it up for me. And it took me time. And I've talked about this many times on my channel. And this is the point that the haters that they use this against me, because this is all they have, that I liked The Last Jedi at first because I was a blind Star Wars fan. But obviously you go back to something like a Ghostbusters 2016, the all-female reboot, where they started calling fans racist and sexist when they were critical of it. And I'm just going like, well, I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I didn't think it looked good, but I'm like, whatever. But I didn't understand what was going on at the time either. You know, when I saw that all-female reboot, I mean, I was just like, this doesn't look good. But hey, whatever. Go for it. Paul Feig's made funny movies. Melissa McCarthy's made funny movies. I don't really care, but I didn't understand what was going on. So that's the kind of, when I see people not have that, like, oh, what's the big deal? It's got a woman in it. That's not the problem. That's not the problem at all. That has nothing to do with it. But they started calling fans sexist for criticizing that. And so that was kind of the beginning of things. And I remember I was at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando. This was before The Last Jedi came out. So this is post Force Awakens, pre Last Jedi. And I noticed the obvious diversity casting in The Force Awakens. Obviously, I noticed it. I didn't have a problem with it. And I was all in on Force Awakens because I'm a Star Wars fan and I want this to be good. And I enjoyed it. And I was optimistic for the future. But I was standing at Star Wars Celebration in the Battlefront 2 panel when they made the announcement. And at that time, we had The Force Awakens with the female lead. We had Rogue One with a female lead. And then I'm in the Battlefront panel. And before they make the announcement, this girl gets up on stage and she goes, "How many female gamers do we have here?" And out of hundreds and hundreds of people, you heard like 3 girls go, "Woo!" Like nobody cared. And I'm like, that was an awkward question. Like, what? Why would you do that? Like, that was so freaking pathetic. And then the reveal for Iden, the main character of Battlefront 2, a woman of color who's on the Empire side. And at that moment, I'm like, are you kidding me? Another female lead? And this time it's a person of color? And we know for a fact that she's not going to stay on the Empire side. And spoilers, she didn't. And I'm just like, at that moment, that's when it really started to bother me. I'm like, I don't like how this is going. So anyway, I went to see The Last Jedi. And I remember having conversations with people afterwards. And I remember telling people how much I liked it, but my words were saying something like my language. They would say, you don't seem confident that you liked it. Now, to preface that, I'm a prequel defender. You know, I love the Star Wars prequels. I love George Lucas. I don't think they're perfect. I think they have some problems, and I've never disputed that. I think that the episode 2 is my least favorite of the 3, but episode 1 and 2, there's fair criticisms, very fair. I love Revenge of the Sith. Okay. I love it. And for years I have fought for the prequels and fought for George Lucas and fought for Star Wars because that's just how I felt. So now when I'm getting at this point where I'm starting to realize, not only do I dislike a Star Wars movie, I hate this movie. But I'm fighting it, man. I'm like, no, man. You just come on, man. It's not that bad. And so after multiple viewings, I finally realized it. And again, as I've said many times, I can deal with the bad movie. I've dealt with a lot of bad movies in my life. What I can't deal with is to be told that people are racist and sexist because they don't like your movie. And at that point, that's where everything started coming together for me, where I'm like, you're blaming the fans and you're calling the fans that have supported Star Wars sexist and racist? What? Star Wars has had women and non-white dudes in it forever. What? And so that's really where the jumping off point was for me, and is seeing how Lucasfilm responded. And that was just the beginning. And as I've said, I've been saying this for the last few months, the same people that were telling us that we're racist and sexist for not liking a movie are the same people that are telling us we're a danger to society because we're not wanting to get the shot or whatever, you know? And again, I'm not pro or anti-vax, by the way. I am pro doing whatever you think works best for your family. That's it. And it's not my business what you do. I don't care if you have it or not. I will never judge you for having it. I will judge you for attacking people for either having or not having it, because that's not what we're supposed to do. That's my stance on it.
Well, let me throw one thing in here. No, Jeremy, because it's funny. Like you talk about being accused of misogyny, racism for not liking the sequels or the prequels or whatever, and the confession through projection. For anybody who doesn't know what's going on in Canada, Justin Trudeau literally came out like it was yesterday and referred to the anti-vax protesters as anti-vaxxers who are angry, misogynistic, racist, and this is literally coming from the individual who himself has dressed in dark skin, who himself has fired his female Minister of Justice, Attorney General. The guy who's done all the racist and sexist stuff is now coming out to demonize everybody who disagrees with him. And it's the confession through projection through and through. But coming into these things, it's a way of discrediting those who would critique you. And they do it politically, they do it ideologically, and it's just how the politics superimposes its modus operandi in the entertainment industry, where you criticize something that's garbage, and instead of listening to your critique, internalizing it, and maybe even possibly responding to it, they've got to delegitimize the criticizers. And the easiest way, if you don't like the movie, it's because you're racist or misogynist. And I'm trying to think of the movie that I just saw where it was just a bad movie, regardless. But if you dare say it's a bad movie, you get all sorts of names. I think it was Ghostbusters is the one I was thinking of.
Oh, the 2016 one.
The 2016.
Ooh, that was a bad movie. That was a bad movie.
I've personally never seen it, so I can't. But I mean, I've seen enough of it. But I just refused to watch it when it came out because of all the nonsense around it. And again, you're talking to someone who, when that was first announced, I was oblivious to whatever. I'm a Ghostbusters fan. I'm not interested in that. But hey, whatever. But they got to the point where their attacks on the fans. I'm not seeing this movie. I'm not seeing it now. I don't care about this movie, and I'm glad I didn't.
Now, did you follow at all anything related? Because like the first time I was clued into the scope and scale of this was when I was studying to bet on the 2016 election, and I was trying to figure out who all these, like the Donald on the Reddit and all these young memers were out of the gamer community. So like, I mean, my son and other people I knew in that field, they were like very apolitical just 10 years before. And now they're making, they're doing Bane versions of Ted Cruz and all that kind of thing. And so and I started digging into it, and how a lot of it was tied to for a fair number of them, like Carl Benjamin and Sargon of Akkad, to GamerGate, like was the first. Oh, did you see anything related to?
I knew nothing of that. Yeah, I knew nothing of GamerGate. So, I knew nothing of that. I mean, I've learned about it after the fact. I've been accused of being a ringleader in GamerGate by all these people. I'm like, what the f- are you talking about? I mean, it's just every time they accuse you of that. I'm like, like the quartering, they accuse him of gamer. He's like, I wasn't around during GamerGate, and it's just that's the left-wing talking points.
Exactly. I mean, where they're right is that it's historically where they went too far the first time. The sort of cultural woke left kept trying to infiltrate conservative institutions, or institutions that were apolitical mostly, and insisted on them adapting their politics, often corrupting the process and lying about things in the process. I mean, GamerGate was just about journalists, banging certain gamers and then promoting them while, hiding the fact that they were banging them. And then they try to make it all about, politics and moral justice and fighting against the patriarchy. I mean, it was some of the most absurd defense ever. But I only found out all about that because I saw the awakening of, they radicalized a bunch of people that would have, like when I watch you guys on Friday Night Tights, and I want to get into how you guys created that. but like almost every 10 years ago, I would identify almost everybody on there as likely more apolitical than political. That today they're political because they've been forced to defend their culture against political attacks.
That is 100% accurate. I mean, so I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a very vocal Trump supporter. And the reason that I'm a vocal Trump supporter is because I was a silent Trump supporter. Because I mean, I typically don't think you're supposed to push your politics out there unless you're asked. And I'm not saying you can't talk about it, but I'm just like, I'm the type of guy like, my politics are irrelevant, but if you want to know, I have no problem telling you. I don't define people off their politics, but you know, as we get closer to with the Last Jedi stuff, like that was early 2018 is when the channel started taking off, and I'd say like in November of 2017, Geeks and Gamers have been around, and we were doing our thing, but I was not happy with where we were at. I felt like we should be at a different level, but we weren't making the strides that I felt like we needed to make. So in November, I think it was November, I told my team. Now at that time, I had people on my team that I never tell them they can't talk about politics or whatever. So I had people on my website that were writing like very, very left-wing things on the website. And that was fine with me. I'm like, it's cool. You know, because I always knew, like, if I ever did talk about how I felt, that I needed things to counterbalance that, you know, because I'm a very strong personality and stuff. So around November of that year, I was tired of seeing things pop up on social media about, I heard a rumor that the guy that owns this company voted for Trump. And I'm like, you're weaponizing somebody's political opinion. So I decided, I'm just going to tell them. I'm going to tell the world I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not going to let you weaponize my political opinion. I'll weaponize it myself. So I told my team privately, I'm like, you guys know who I voted for. You know I'm a strong supporter. Well, I'm about to tell everybody. I'm not going to hide from it anymore because I felt like I shouldn't have my politics out there because of what I wanted Geeks and Gamers to become. But I started to see it being weaponized. So I had to go on the offensive so that I wouldn't find myself in a defensive position. So I decided to go and tell everybody I'm a Trump supporter. And it was a great decision to do that, obviously, because it's very liberating. And, you know, a lot of people see like, yeah, it's okay to be a Trump supporter, because it is okay to be a Trump supporter.
One of the things I've been saying, it's okay to vote PPC also. It's like when you've been browbeaten into silence, you think there's something wrong with believing what you believe, as though it's radical, as though it's sinful, and then you realize it's not, and it's liberating, and it encourages others to make the same realization. It's
yeah, absolutely. And I loved telling everybody about it, and I loved the meltdown and the love that it brought. But I'm very happy I did it, and I encourage more people to do it. Don't let them weaponize your political opinion.
Now, someone said something, Jeremy. I don't know. I don't think I get the reference. Oh, this is for being a vocal Trump supporter, but that wasn't the one I was looking for. Someone said, ask you about your fetish for Brie Larson's feet. I don't know if that's an inside joke, but I figure I should probably ask the question. It was a super chat.
Pretty much everything you hear from anybody that follows Geeks and Gamers is an inside joke. That's all we do. And so I've made like 200 Brie Larson videos on my channel because of the Captain Marvel stuff. And you know, there was a super chat earlier that you read about, like, you know, I'm very sarcastic to people that don't like me because they get so mad about it. Like they think I'm the devil because I'm sarcastic. But this whole Captain Marvel thing, like it was just like a snowball. It just kept getting, because she came out and said, you know, she doesn't care about the opinion of a 40-year-old white man when talking about the movie A Wrinkle in Time, the live action remake. She says, I don't care what a 40-year-old white dude thinks about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. I want to know what people of color think. And that comment right there is what created all the problems with Brie Larson. And it's not that she kept saying stuff, but the media treated her like she was the gift of the world because they just rallied around her. So the more the media would write articles, the more videos I would make. The more people would get mad about it, the more videos I would make. And Captain Marvel probably got me more subs than anything, maybe outside of Game of Thrones, maybe. But yeah, so now it's just a running joke about that I have an obsession with Brie Larson. And I mean, that's not entirely inaccurate. I have an obsession with the ad revenue that Brie Larson brings me. But yeah, that's
I mean, was that?
But
That was
by the way.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jeremy from the Quartering. I have made more Brie Larson videos than you. You may have a bigger channel, but I am still the king of the Brie videos. Although he is catching me because he's made more lately than I have. That's a joke with being him, though. Go ahead, there, Robert.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, he has that same running joke on his on his show. I mean, that was the first. I was surprised when it started reaching. I mean, I was disappointed that it got into Ghostbusters and then Star Trek and then Star Wars and then one after the next. But to see Marvel fall, and the first cracks was Captain Marvel and Brie Larson. I mean, not only that, they chose someone who was really, aside from the plot being kind of lame and how they did her character, but I mean, they chose someone who's really contemptible the more you get to know her in real life. I mean, she had that reputation in parts of Hollywood already, and even her fellow actors couldn't hide their contempt for her. I mean, you did a couple of videos on where they're just sitting next to her, trying to contain their complete dislike of her, their total disdain of who she is. And these are people that are completely, apolitical or don't care, but they clearly despise her. And yet Marvel marched right on forward, which was that was the sign. I was like, wow, the politics getting so bad, Hollywood's actually willing to start losing money over it.
Yeah, and it is like nothing's untouchable. And I just see that we're great. Jeremy from the Quartering's attacked. His channel's under attack from Geeks and Gamers. I love Jeremy from the Quartering. Learned a lot from that guy in terms of just watching how he built his channel. Nothing but respect for him. Love that guy. But yeah, I mean, at this point, like the more prominent something is, the more that it's going to be in danger of being taken over. So, and it takes time. So, like anything else, if you go back to, I don't know, remember the Sarah Fuller thing in college football, with bringing the female kicker on that got,
she couldn't barely make a kick and everybody was going to cheer and give her a prize. And I mean, if I was Vanderbilt, I guess that's the only thing I can cheer for. So I kind of get it when your football program doesn't belong in FBS, least of all the SEC. But Clay Travis being alum notwithstanding, but that was just sad to see SEC football go that fast.
And and the point of that, me bringing that up, is because so I compare. So again, not because I'm an Alabama fan, but Alabama is the top program in the country, and we all know that. Alabama would. Yeah, Alabama would be the Marvel or the Star Wars of the entertainment industry versus, in the sports world. Vanderbilt is a nothing. So if Sarah Fuller, she walked into Vanderbilt and it ruined that organization, that university like that, because there's no infrastructure whatsoever. They had nothing. So identity politics, the moment it gets in there, it's like a disease and it spreads through. And if you don't have a healthy body, it's going to eat that body up. That's what happened to Vanderbilt. Now, if it goes into the University of Alabama, well, it's going to take a lot longer to eat away at that, but it eventually will happen. That's what we're seeing with Marvel. Marvel is Alabama, and wokeness has found its way into Alabama, hypothetically speaking. Clearly, please, Nick Saban did do his BLM marches because he's a recruiter. We all know that, Nick. You don't care. You just want to recruiting, but that's another point. But so with Marvel now, it's taken some time. But that wokeness is eating away at it. And now we're starting to finally see that it's having some effect on it, but it's been there for a while. But because Marvel is so big and so successful, it's taken us a lot longer to see it than we would have if, it wasn't that big of an entity.
So it says, I'm saying, Cause Diver says, down with left tube and MSM, and chat is not working on Rumble. I refreshed. It looks like it's all right, but on the subject, actually, there was one Rumble rant, which I figured I should get to. Tatone says, glad you finally got Jeremy on. Been a fan of his for years and happy Robert could join. Keep up the great work, y'all. I
am 100% honored to be here, really. I don't belong here with you two amazing guys. I'm just a dude who clickbaits on the internet with red Brie Larson eyes in my thumbnails.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not sure. I feel the same way because I'm looking at you like I haven't seen the first adult movie, not porno. The adult movie that I've seen in a long time was The Joker. My wife took the kids. It was after our stream up. And so I finally got to watch Joker after all of the hype, after seeing all of the reviews, seeing how this was a movie appealing to white nationalism, Trump supporters. I watched it. It was a good movie. I don't understand what the controversy was, and I'm convinced it was a fabricated, manufactured controversy.
It was.
Something of the every fear hides a wish type thing from the mainstream media. They wanted to plant those seeds to make things happen so they could say, look what this movie did. Ultimately never did it. It was as far as a Genesis movie goes, I haven't seen many, but it was a good one. It certainly helped me understand. It was a great insight into how the Joker became the Joker, how Gotham City became Gotham City.
Fantastic film.
As far as any more meaning went into it, it was manufactured outrage. But I'm curious to know, because it's the only movie I'll be able to talk about and know what I'm talking about. Jeremy, what did you think of that movie?
I loved that film. I went to see it with my brother, Gary from Nerdrotic, who's been on here before. I'm pretty sure he's watching right now. But yeah, we went to see that, and I thought it was a fantastic film. I thought, and now I'm a big fan of The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger's Joker, and I was of the mindset that anybody who takes on that role is always going to be in his shadow. Joaquin Phoenix proved me wrong. He proved me wrong. And the funny thing is the media built this up about like that there was going to be like all of these attacks and violence surrounding this movie, and it never happened. But do you know where the attack did happen? Frozen 2, when there was a machete attack at a cinema. Yeah, because apparently Frozen 2 is inspiring people to attack people with machetes. At least that's the narrative that would have been spun if that attack happened at a Joker screening. That's exactly what they would have done. It has nothing to do with the movie itself, but that's what the media would have told you if that attack would have happened there. But it happened at Frozen 2. So I made a video. God, people were so mad because I said Frozen 2 inspired an attack. and they were just like, he believes it. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, the whole point was to be sarcastic because the media would have ran with this story if it would have happened at the Joker. But yeah, I thought Joaquin Phoenix was incredible. I hope they keep that a one-off. I hope they don't go into that world anymore, because one thing, so like Christopher Nolan is my favorite filmmaker by a mile. And the one thing I love about Nolan is when he's done telling his story, he doesn't revisit that story. So like you have Inception, that was a, box office phenomenon. He never went back to that. There's tons of money on the table, but he told his story.
Christopher Nolan did Memento as well, right?
Memento. Mm-hmm. And so like that's what I hope happens with the Joker. But I think there's been so many rumors about it. I don't know what the latest is. I think they're probably going to make a sequel, but I really hope they don't. Chat, you can tell me if they greenlit that. There's been a lot of rumors around that, so I don't know if we've heard something official or not. But I loved it.
Spoiler alert, if they make a remake, at least now I know that Robert De Niro's not going to be in it. I'm live tweeting. I just like tweeting while I watch a movie. I said, I see Robert De Niro's face. All I can see is what politics has ruined. And I couldn't see him as anything but a bad actor in this movie. He didn't look good. He didn't look believable. And I tweet out, oh, look at this. Robert De Niro's awful. I can't see anything but his politics. And then it was like, well, don't worry about it. He gets what he deserves in the end. And I was like, crap. Well, I don't care about knowing the ends of movies. You cannot spoil any movie for me. But he was a non-believable character in that movie. And
I thought it was fantastic and multiple. I mean, I at one level wasn't shocked because I'm a big fan of Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, his performance of Johnny Cash was extraordinary. I thought that was brutally difficult to pull that one off. Mm-hmm. Obviously, his performance in Gladiator was off the charts. I mean, you believe that about him. But I was still, because I like the old TV show version of Joker. I like the cartoon version. I like Jack Nicholson's version of Joker. But I agree. I thought Heath Ledger would be really tough to trump. And Joaquin Phoenix just leapfrogged it. I mean, it was.
It's so hard to step into an iconic role that someone has defined in such a way, but that's why I just have such a high level of respect for what he did. I know Joaquin Phoenix is a nut job, which is why he was a good Joker. Yes, and I know a lot of these people are crazy, but I think what
a lot of actors just said, the crazier they are, that they're able to completely play someone else, and you have to be at least partially crazy to completely become a different person on a regular basis cinematically.
Yeah, exactly. And what Viva said about there are not I can separate the art from the artist in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, but there's just a line that it finally, like Mark Hamill, for instance, I can no longer separate the art from the artist. I've lost all respect for Mark Hamill because of the things he says.
Like he's 85 now.
Yes,
I mean, they got to quit playing him pretending he's Hulk. I mean, what Hulk comes out with like a Royal Walker or something. I mean, it's not going to work.
I think
that's Mark Ruffalo. I'm talking Mark Hamill. Hamill's Luke Skywalker. Oh yes, you're right. You're right. So, but the problem is they're both crazy. They're both crazy leftists. So yes, go ahead, Viva.
I mean, the Last Jedi ruined him forever. I mean, you're always going to see him on what was that goat thing or whatever it was,
Yes.
getting milk. I mean, that defined him. I mean, that just ended it. I was like, anybody who loves that the Skywalker, I was like, no. I mean, you can't get that image out of your head.
Mark Hamill for me is, I still have the Simpsons episode stuck in my head, but the one who I can't separate the art from the artist is Roman Polanski. I can't watch any of his movies. Every movie that I watch, however great it might be on paper, is still the work of a person whom I don't like. And I can't.
He abused young women. Well, I mean, he did have a horrible tragedy with what happened to his wife. But that doesn't exactly excuse what he did. On the other hand, basically his whole life is Chinatown. I mean, that's what I mean. Every time I see him, I think Chinatown, because it's Chinatown. Nothing makes sense in Chinatown, and that's basically Roman Polanski's whole life. I mean, Chinatown is basically a biographical.
For anybody who may not know, Roman Polanski's wife was Sharon Tate. Was the victim of the Manson murder, Helter Skelter business. Roman Polanski.
Which, by the way, the prosecutors originally implicitly blamed Polanski for. I mean, there's a documentary on that. You kind of see why he went fully nuts. He's born during the Holocaust, escaping on all kinds of horrific stories. Then he kind of makes himself into somebody important, successful, artistically, a little weird still. He's doing Rosemary's Baby and whatnot. It's not like he's, writing sweet little lullabies. But, his wife dies from one of the most horrific public murders ever. And then he's blamed for it by the media and by some politicians for the next 2 years. You're going to be insane by the end of that. I mean, you're going to be living at Chinatown on a sequel, his cinematic masterpiece.
I've got to go watch Chinatown again. I know I watched it over 20 years ago. I guarantee I did not appreciate one element of it, but
it's one dark movie, but a brilliant movie. I mean, people forget how dark that movie is. I mean, what it's really getting into. It's like, very Hollywood. Very Hollywood.
Very Hollywood. I saw someone say Polanski was the lesser OJ. I
still think OJ's innocent. So, but that's a debate for another day.
I would love to hear your take on that, but maybe we come on Sports Wars and do something about that.
Exactly. It'd be an appropriate Sports Wars kind of discussion.
Absolutely.
Now, he was good in those Naked Gun movies. A lot better than LeBron James and Space Jam 2.
Oof.
Almost walked out 3 times during The Last Jedi, but told myself maybe the movie ends in the next 3 minutes. Should have watched it the first time. So you say the worst one was the worst one might have been Ghostbusters. The most recent. Well, first of all, for those who don't know what GamerGate was, actually, Jeremy, someone asked a question, but maybe we're presuming too much knowledge. Not too much knowledge, but presuming a knowledge base for not everyone in the crowd. GamerGate, in a nutshell, Robert and I have talked about it, but let's do it one more time here.
Well, I know it's to do with ethics and games journalism, and I know that there was a lot of sleeping around, but I'm not that versed on GamerGate as much as the people that accuse me of being the ringleader of it now. So Robert will probably be able to give a better kind of description of it than me. I know our boy, our Boulder buddy loves to talk about it all the time. I'm not going to mention his name because screw him, but but you could probably brief him better than I can.
Well, there's the popular media narrative about it, which was that you had this misogynistic gaming culture that was attacking and victimizing poor journalists and young women creators. That was the institutional narrative,
which is kind of the same thing we hear about so many different things. It's like the same bullet points for everything.
The real narrative was there was 2 things happening at the same time. One, this effort of leftist culture, SJW culture, to infiltrate every cultural institution of any kind. And they decided to try to infiltrate gaming. And they were going to force gamers into becoming wokesters. This sort of last bastion of apolitical, independent, mostly young men who really don't care about any of that. And they, of course, naturally rebelled against it. That was going on. At the same time, you had corruption in gaming journalism. Some of it was just personal corruption. Journalists who are sleeping with game creators, giving a big promotional. What happens is ordinary gamers are like.
That's what I know about it. Yeah, that's what I know about it. What the media narrative. The media narrative is so nonsensical, and I kept getting tied into this thing, and I'm like, I don't even know what the hell it is. And I had to go back and watch videos on other creators from back, and I'm like, I need to understand what I'm being accused of being part of, because I didn't even know anything about it. And then, I was like, wow, because there's some really good breakdowns on YouTube about it. And again, I never knew anything about it until I was accused of being part of it. And I was like, well, let me find out what I'm being accused of being part of, because I don't even know what this is. But that's so ridiculous that they just tie everybody into the whatever their NPC is. And I always say it like, like Viva, have you heard the NPC meme?
Oh yeah, well, the non-programmed character,
non-playable character.
Yeah,
So
That was a
yeah,
brilliant
like
meme. Whoever came up with that, brilliant.
I know
brilliant
it's
meme.
so good, and that's literally what we're dealing with these people. So the non-playable character in a video game can only speak a preset amount of words that has been programmed in them. They can't say any more or any less. They can only say what they've been programmed, and the only way they can say anything different is if there's an update. So every time we see them say a new set of words, we say the NPCs have their update. They're non-playable characters in the game of life. And the only way they can say anything different is when the mainstream overlords or the big tech overlords give them their update. That's it. So like inciting insurrection was a really good update that we heard not too long ago. And they've been repeating it ever since. And that's
it's amazing. I've known the NPC meme. I see it because I'm on social medias. I never understood that particular aspect, that detail, and it's beautiful because it's a beautiful analogy, and it makes a lot more sense of the meme.
It's
Absolutely. Now, what game is it, Viva, that you like to play?
Contra. I like Contra, and I like Superman. I mean, I'm on the old NES, and
hey, you're after my heart, man. You're after my heart.
Like,
some old school games.
It's muscle memory. It's like the 15 minutes of the day when I play Contra, and I can finish it clean. Like I can finish it on the first 3 lives. I finished it without losing a life more than once. It's like it's the most what's the word, pure 15 minutes of my day where I think of nothing else except for that. But
nice.
No, I'm on the old NES. I never got into gaming. I never got into movies just because we had 3 kids and my movies consist of cartoons, and you can see some of the stuff in cartoons, but generally speaking, you're like Megamind. When you have these extraterrestrial type movies, it's a lot more difficult for like the woke ideologies to make their way into it. Some cartoons you can see it, like Frozen 1 and 2. Maybe you can see it, but they're still enjoyable.
Right.
But when I watch them, I watched something called The Chair. I don't know if it's a television show, 6 series or 7 series. Very bad. It's patronizing. But as far as I'm concerned, none of this is new. I remember my dad, when we were growing up, saying, "Look at these commercials. The father is always the buffoon. The mother is always smart. They always make." It was not race-based. It was more gender at the time. It's just like the male dad is always the idiot. The mom is always correcting him, and that's the image they're projecting. It's that's always been around in my mind. But when it came to the movies, you realize you don't see movies like Total Recall, the original, Die Hard. It has become. They've become tainted with some sort of political correctness, even if there's not overt wokeness in them. And it became
think
on
about all the movies that could never be made today that were just made 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Well,
I'd say anything by Mel Brooks. I mean, you're racist for even owning it on DVD. So when they come to my door, they're going to see a lot of Mel Brooks DVDs in the basement. But things aren't
even
funny
the
anymore.
best. Even the best stuff today has it. Even the best. Okay, so I love Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is fantastic. Even Cobra Kai has these girls beating the hell out of every guy, and no guy can beat up the girl. No guy. Like, these girls are just beating the hell out of these guys. And I don't see, and that's fine. You want to have that? That's fine. But I don't see anybody hitting the girls back. And I'm like, this is so ridiculous. And I mean, I love it, but you can't help but just notice these little things that are there that are going to become bigger problems. And that's what I learned from Star Wars, that if I see it in the beginning, I'm going to have a problem with it, even if it's subtle. And that's because, again, I ignored the subtle problems from Star Wars with The Force Awakens, and it bit me bad. And now you don't get Hollywood doesn't get the benefit of the doubt from me at all.
I was just noticing, even when I played Double Dragon 2 on NES, the characters are characters you cannot recreate these days because they would just be too politically incorrect to replicate those particular characters with the attributes that they had in that game. It's amazing where identity politics ruins everything even more than politics does. But
a wise man once said, "Everything woke turns to shit." And I'll be voting for that wise man in 2024. So.
The people asking about Snipes, he's intensely introverted. But what's fascinating is, so he doesn't go, he hates media all times. But you guys do have somebody interesting coming on this Friday night, Tights. This weekend.
We do. And I appreciate you helping make that connection. So we just announced it on my live stream earlier on Geeks and Gamers. Alex Jones will be appearing on Friday Night Tights on Nerdrotic's YouTube channel. That is a Geeks and Gamers production. And yeah, me and Gary have really, we've seen Friday Night Tights just become something that neither one of us really, knew
how did
could
that
happen.
How did that start? Because basically, like, you guys go 3, 4, 5 hours, tons of fun conversation, 8, 9 people going. So it seems ingenious now, but it's like, what came up with that idea initially?
Yeah, so I mean, Gary's the live stream king is what I always call him. And it doesn't matter if Gary's just sitting there and just picking his nose, he's going to get 5,000 people watching him because he's just that cool.
Well, he's got the great beard. He's got
just got it all,
beard,
man. Yeah, Gary's the man. And Gary, like I used to live stream a lot on Geeks and Gamers, and I kind of moved away from it. And people are always asking me to come back to it. I have so much going on. I have 7 YouTube channels at this point. We have a Twitch channel. I have a website. I have a full team on the website, social media stuff going on just have a lot of personality. So I don't live stream as much as I used to. But Gary, Odin and Gary, Odin's on my team for Geeks and Gamers, and he also a panelist on Friday Night Tights. And if I'm understanding how it went correctly, Odin told Gary we should do something like a Geeks and Gamers tie-in on your Friday show because he was trying to give some new ideas. And so it kind of started out as just a kind of like, yeah, we'll bring some Geeks and Gamers team on, and we'll turn it, be a Friday Night Tights Geeks and Gamers deal. And it was just it was laid back, a few thousand people would show up and it was fun. And then we started gaining some traction. We started getting some guests, and the people started responding to it. And I do think the name Friday Night Tights is genius. I mean, it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, who came up with that? Was it?
I think Gary if I'm not mistaken, Gary told me that someone in the chat recommended it to him. And I mean, again, no one asks what day is Friday Night Tights because you already know. And
is it tights as in the article of clothing, or what does the tights refer to?
So to break it down for you so everybody understands, I have no idea. So I don't know if we thought about it that much. It's just right. But obviously you got Friday Night Lights, which was a movie and a fantastic TV show.
Denzel Washington, if I'm not mistaken. Who was in that?
No,
he was in the other football movie.
Yeah, he was in Remember the Titans.
Yep.
So Billy Bob Thornton was in the movie.
Yep.
And then Kyle Chandler was in the TV show, which is one of my favorite television characters of all time in that. But Remember the Titans is a fantastic movie, by the way. But yeah, as far as the name goes, I don't know any of the details from that, but it worked. And then there's been components that have taken it from what it was in the beginning to where it's at now. And some of those key components are Perry Chan, who is our editor, who edits all the funny clips together. And then we've got these amazing intros every week, and everybody that the fans look forward to that every week because he does some really, really funny things. We've brought more panelists on. I think Az was from Hill versus Babyface was a massive addition to that because Az is such a big personality, so fun. And, and then we brought
his memes are out of this world. Just kind of crazy.
Yes.
What he puts together. I mean, maybe slightly disturbed upon occasion, but very fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we've got, we've brought X-Ray Girl on, who's part of Geeks and Gamers. We've got an amazing cast over there. And then Dan Vask recently did a Friday Night Tights theme song that was #1 on Amazon and iTunes for a couple of days after we premiered it. Like #1 overall, which is insane. And so that's just it's just become something special. People really have really connected to that, and we're really thankful to be part of it. And we're only there because of the fans, and that's something we'll never lose sight of. But yeah, having Alex Jones on it's intimidating. I'm not even gonna lie. It's intimidating because it's Alex freaking Jones. You guys had him,
and forgive me for not knowing. Do you play games live, or is it just? Is it a more of a discussion, or is there any gaming that goes on?
For Geeks and Gamers, we have on our Twitch channel, we play games, and we have a Gaming with Geeks channel. So it's Gaming with Geeks is the YouTube channel. So Geeks and Gamers is the main channel. You guys know this just as well as I do. The algorithm on YouTube is such a complicated thing. So, I talk more about the Hollywood identity politics stuff on the main Geeks and Gamers channel. And so that's my social commentary. And I have my team on there, and I'm trying to kind of shift it into more of a team channel instead of a Jeremy centric channel, because I never wanted it to be a Jeremy centric channel. That's just what it became. And that's a tough transition because, you know, it's like I told this the other day, if I'm subscribed to Gary from Nerdrotic and he builds that up to 300,000 subscribers by him, and then he starts suddenly putting a bunch of personalities on that channel, I'm be like, oh, I don't want to see all these people. I want to see Gary. And that's kind of how it is with Geeks and Gamers, the main channel. People want to see Jeremy. And so but I've never been somebody that does the easy thing. So I know it's going to be tough for us to make that, but I want to start blending more of my team into that channel. I have my personal channel, D-Day Cobra, where just the Jeremy show, if you want to be over there. But we have the gaming channel, Gaming with Geeks, where we do a lot of more of our game news and stuff like that. And then we have a Twitch channel, Geeks and Gamers, where we do live stream gaming over there. So, and that's just not to mention the Sports Wars channel, the Theme Park channel, Epic Game Clips channel, where we put funny memes and stuff. And it's just crazy, man. It's crazy how many moving parts we have.
And that's what I want to get into actually now, because I saw the interview you gave with, it was 4 years ago. I forget with whom, but it was when they announced you as the CEO of Geeks and Gamers. So I forget.
Video.
It was very insightful, and I don't think people fully appreciate. People look at the likes of us sometimes, at YouTubers in general, and they say somebody talking to a camera, nothing goes into it. Jeremy, how many companies do you have? How is it broken down? What's the corporate structure? How many employees? And how do you manage this on a day-to-day basis for anybody who wants a moment of insight into what goes on a daily basis for you with all that you're running?
Oh boy. Okay. So I'm a sole proprietor at this point still. So anybody who's here is independent contractor is essentially how that goes. And, it's, the thing is so we're actually currently, I'm trying to turn this into more, to get it out of sole proprietor and get us more into that structure. We're in the process of beginning to do that very soon. I've actually just turned over my team communications to where it's kind of been on like a Facebook Messenger group chat thing. And now we're doing Microsoft Teams, because that's meant to add more structure and everything, because we are in a phase with Geeks and Gamers where I'm trying to bring more structure, which is my weak point. But a good leader always knows when to follow. And that's something I've always said. Leaders have to follow just as much as they lead. You just have to recognize when it's a time to lead and follow. And I've got, people connected to me there in my family that I have, that I'm bringing into the team, that I had a discussion with a long time ago, where I said, my way of doing things is going to get us pretty far. But in order to get us to the next level, I'm going to make a lot of noise and I can get us to a certain place, but then I'm going to need you to come in there with that structure, because that's where I struggle, because I'm just like, I want to wake up and just do whatever the hell I want. I don't need no schedule. But we're kind of moving into that. But right now I have, like I said, the main Geeks and Gamers channel. Sports Wars is its own entity, which Robert's making videos over there. I'm so gracious for that. And Sports Wars is over 100,000 subs recently. And that was something people told me, like, don't bring sports and geeks together, which it's not necessarily together, but it still falls under that banner. And that channel's seen huge success. The gaming channel, the theme park channel, which is a completely different animal. Like, if you watch me on the theme park channel when I'm over there occasionally, I don't cuss and I'm very nice, which is very rare for me on the internet. But the theme park channel is much different. All of this falls under the same umbrella, though. It's all under that Geeks and Gamers banner. It all falls under that. And I've talked to Robert about this, but one of my inspirations for what I really want this to become is I want Geeks and Gamers to become the Barstool Sports of the geek world. Because I've looked at what Dave Portnoy has created with Barstool Sports and all of the moving parts, and I'm very inspired by that. And so that's kind of the goal that I'm looking to be. And the funny thing is years ago, when I had no following and I had no YouTube channel and I just had the website and the Facebook group, my goal was to become Collider. And I think we've accomplished that in some ways. I mean, obviously Collider was owned by a far bigger entity and they had far more resources than we have. But on a surface level, I think that we've reached some level of that. And so now, if I can reach my next goal, which is to be a Barstool Sports of sorts, that's where it goes. Now, in terms of people under me, I have a ton of volunteers, just people that want to be here. I'm very much the way I manage people is people come to me over the years and they want to be part of this. And I tell them, like, it's entry level. This is not like, there's no paid position that's available now. You can work your way into something, but revenue that you're creating will be what you're only going to get what you put in and whatever gets generated. And that's just a breakdown that we kind of figure out. But my manager style is basically when people come to me and they want to work with us and do things, I kind of just throw people into the water and see if they can swim. And that's it. And I let them figure it out. So like Ryan Kennel, who you've had on this channel. Ryan is someone who did not have a YouTube channel when I met him. Me and Gary met him at a meetup in San Diego, a fan meetup. Ryan had no YouTube channel, and he just came to meet us as a fan. And me and Gary separately did not know each other, said this to him, but like separately, we told him, hey, you've got, you're really well spoken. You got a good look. You know what you're talking about. You should create a YouTube channel. And, I gave him my phone number. And then a few weeks later, I think I texted him. I'm like, hey, what do you got going on? Are you doing the channel? Because I think I am. I said, if you do, hit me up. I'd love to have you on my team. He goes, really? Ryan is this guy who I keep seeing people go, all you need to do is be friends with Jeremy and he'll plug your channel and you'll get all these subs. That is factually not true in any capacity whatsoever. I can barely get a couple thousand people to watch my live stream. How do you think I'm getting 50,000 people to subscribe to some random person's channel? I mean, I don't have the power that these people think I do. Ryan is someone who took the opportunity I gave him and he maximized it beyond belief. Now, yes, if I don't give him the opportunity, probably doesn't have that. But he's the one that maximized it. I'm just here to give you the platform. Your job is to do what you can with it. So I just kind of throw people in and say, here, swim. Let's see how good you can swim, and you figure it out. And I let them kind of mold into whatever they want to do or whatever they want to be. So contrary to popular belief, I don't ask people their political opinions. I don't care what their movie opinions are. I don't care who they voted for. I don't care who they slept with. I just care if they have a decent level of common sense about them. That's it. That's really all it takes. And then it's weird how I kind of bring people in. It's just a gut feeling type of thing. Is to, people reach out to me all the time. Like, oh, I want to be part of this. And I'm thankful for that. It's just a weird process as to what I feel we need and what we're going to work. Plus I have the website. I have an editor in chief. I have a writing team. I have a security team. I have a webmaster, and it's just a ton of moving parts. And to answer your question, how do I manage it? I don't know. Just deal with it, man. I had a conversation with someone who's now, like I told you, I have a family member who's kind of getting more involved that helped me with the structure. And he was like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Like, I'm trying to figure my way into what you have going on. And I said, the best analogy I can give you is this is my messy room and I know where everything's at. And you are like tiptoeing around going, and he's like, that's a great analogy. I said, but I understand we got to clean up the room. So that's kind of how I looked at it.
So like Bill Murray in the original, either the original Ghostbusters or maybe Ghostbusters 2, or maybe Stripes, where he's explaining there's different degrees of clean and different degrees of organization, and that what may seem like a mess is actually well structured in some particularized manner. So when did you know this was going to be what you were going to focus on, that this was going to be your sort of career path, if you will?
So back in, it's funny because in late 2017, before, if fate has a funny way of doing things and things just the universe lining up of sorts. So late 2017, I made that decision, like I think it was November, that I was going to start being more opinionated. I'm going to be telling people I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not going to hold back on my opinions. And that decision was made. Shortly after that, the retail job that I was working, the company did a massive layoff. So I got laid off and got a severance package. And then The Last Jedi happened. And at that point in time, the YouTube channel had 700 subscribers. The main YouTube channel, I had one channel and it had 700 subscribers. So I'm out of a job. I've got about 3 months. And I've just recently told my team that I'm going to start telling everybody I'm a Trump supporter. I'm like, this isn't good. Because I didn't know. And even like people sit there and say that I worked the algorithm. He worked the algorithm for The Last Jedi. I didn't know.
As if that's it anyhow. But
well, yeah. But I wish I would have. I wish I would have been like, I'm going to work the algorithm and build my channel. I didn't know what an algorithm was. I didn't know any of this stuff. I had a channel with 700 subscribers and I never made a dime off of it. I just started talking about how I felt about The Last Jedi. And I didn't know people were mad about the movie at that time. I didn't know. I was worried that I was going to be a hypocrite because I defended the prequels all those years. So I'm like, man, hating a Star Wars movie feels so foreign to me. And I did it, and it took off, and it was fate, fate and good luck, and just, having that gut feeling. And so, yeah, getting laid off at the job, having a window of about 3 months of paychecks after the first of the year hits, and having The Last Jedi happen, and my anger. So it was a lot of kind of things just fell into place for me right then and there. So after that 3 months, I started making a little bit of revenue, and I made the decision at that point. I'm like, I'm not going back to retail and doing this 50%. I'm going all in. And that's what happened. And I've never looked back since.
Well, what's amazing is how much that there's such an appetite for just honest information. And that because the review industry has been so corrupted culturally as well as for other reasons, that it's like hard to, I mean, these days, the best way to know whether something's a good movie is when there's a big gap between the Rotten Tomatoes official rating and the fan rating. I mean, to such a degree, they started to manipulate the fan rating to make it look something other than what it was. Has it surprised you at all how much, or when did it surprise you, and how much has it surprised you, the degree to which the critics are completely in the bag, whether they're called access media for those reasons or because of their cultural predilections? Any movie they celebrate tends to disproportionately be crap, and any movie that's actually good, they tend to disproportionately hate on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when you could at least somewhat trust Rotten Tomato scores, or at least not trust them, but just feel like, hey, that movie's got some good feedback on it, and so I'd like to go check it out. And a lot of times you go, yeah, that's a good movie, and it's completely compromised now. I mean, obviously, I think it all kind of blends in together as to when you lost the trust for the critics was kind of when you start losing the trust for the films. And you look at Ghostbusters 2016, and they had good reviews. The Last Jedi has like a 91%, Rotten Tomatoes, and like I don't know the last time I looked. I know it's a rotten score on, for the audience. And so you start looking at that, but the real moment, like, even though you see all those things, the real moment was Captain Marvel, because they literally changed their entire structure for reviews because of review bombing is this thing. Oh, I gotta get into the review bombing, where basically what review bombing is the media's way of trying to weaponize opinions. When opinions don't line up with what they want, it's review bombing. And I have talked about this more times than I can count, but Shaft in a few years ago with the Samuel L. Jackson, the second Shaft movie. That movie, I've seen it. It's great, and it's very politically incorrect. And it's very much
the original Shaft movie.
Exactly.
Those movies were never designed to be politically. Most blaxploitation movies were not designed to be politically correct. I mean, heck, they celebrate pimps. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that's not fashionable today in Hollywood.
Yeah, and that movie. In a time when representation matters, according to the critics, representation is important. That movie, directed by a black man and has an all-black cast, has a terrible critic score and a phenomenal Rotten Tomatoes audience score. It's got like a 90-something, 92 or 93% audience score, but the critics gave it like a 30% or something like that. So I go, okay, and my whole thing is, I am not offended over anything in isolation. Nothing bothers me except for stupidity and hypocrisy. So I like to use hypocrisy. So that's why the whole Captain Marvel thing, I'd always say, if Brie Larson can say that about white people, then can everyone say that about any other race or gender? Of course not. Nope. So it's hypocrisy. I don't care what Brie Larson said. What she said doesn't bother me. It's the hypocrisy of it. So with the Rotten Tomatoes critic scores and all that, if fans review bomb something, meaning give it bad reviews because they don't like it, those are toxic racist fans. So I flip it on, go, why do the critics hate black people? Because they gave Shaft a bad review. Why are you intimidated by black voices being heard? A black man directed? Why are you so toxic? And they don't like it when you flip their logic on them. And Rotten Tomatoes is completely gone, but that Captain Marvel moment, because they changed it, they made it to where audience couldn't just review it. You had to have a verified review. And at that point, you knew that it's been completely compromised now. Completely.
So we'll get into some controversies later in a few minutes, because you have a couple, but they don't seem to be that big. The one where this was actually one of my moments of awakening. It was a movie called True Crimes, starring Jim Carrey, and I don't know how I came across watching it. It wasn't
True
a terrible movie.
Crimes?
Yeah,
With
here,
Jim Carrey?
yeah, it's.
I haven't seen
hold on.
one.
It's
Okay.
a quasi-serious movie. It's about and apparently it's based on something of a true story. Dark Crimes is a rote, unpleasant thriller that fails to parlay its compelling true story and a committed Jim Carrey performance into even modest chills. So I watched this movie. I don't know how I stumbled across it, 2016, and it was decent. Then I go to Rotten Tomatoes. It had 0% for the experts. What do they call them? What are the words they use for them?
The critics.
The critics, I'm sorry, not the experts, the critics. 0%, but it only had 37 reviews. And then it had like 30% audience reviews, but it had like hundreds of audience reviews. And then I started thinking, this movie, someone making this movie had to have pissed the wrong person off to only get 37 reviews of critics on a Jim Carrey movie smelled fishy. That it was 0%, it wasn't that bad of a movie. I've seen bad movies, was suspicious. And then that was one of the movies that really opened my eyes to just how infiltrated, how gamed the review period was, or the review process was. And then there were some other movies, like ones that had massive divergence. That's when it became obvious between the critics and the crowd, and nothing could explain it except vested interests in the outcome of the only people who would have a vested interest, and those would be the critics. But
well, you see, like all the racial dynamics. Like you look at a character that was one of the first great comic characters to come to life. That was a black lead actor, Wesley Snipes in Blade. Fantastic Blade. Blade 2, pretty solid. Yep. And then they spent all of Blade 3 bringing in a different director with their whole goal being to undermine Snipes' role so they could do a spin-off series with Ryan Reynolds. And it's sort of and that's what, Snipes was unhappy about that. And that led to a range of other issues. And then Hollywood waged war on him for about half a decade. And it's amazing because, there's a guy who's a truly iconic, he's made independent documentaries about independent Black historians, deep into both African-American and Native American history because of his own ancestral heritage. But he's very independent-minded. He goes wherever his mind takes him. That takes him left, it takes him left. If it takes him right, it takes him right. He refused to recreate or recast his Nino Brown character because he thought there were too many portrayals of Black men as drug dealers. That's why you've never seen him in another sort of Black Scarface, which is what his role was. But Hollywood doesn't like actual independent Black lead characters and doesn't like actual dynamic independent Black movie characters. It wants caricatured wokesters like the most recent Marvel series, where 100%. You have quasi Captain America, doing a lecture to a white senator, and in such a half. Nobody's going to confuse that actor with either Wesley Snipes or Samuel L. Jackson.
No, not at all. I mean, the one of my favorite movies of all time, and I didn't even know this until recently when I was just looking at Rotten Tomatoes, but one of my favorite movies of all time is Man on Fire with Denzel Washington.
Oh yeah.
Look at the Rotten Tomato score on that. It's awful. Like the critics crushed it. And I'm like, what? And I can't process how they could give that movie a bad score, yet the audience rating is astronomically high because it's a fantastic movie. They hate
those kind of revenge films that don't have an underscore of a woke story. I mean, it's like almost all the worldwide wrestling films that sort of went the direct action films. Any of those, like the Marine series and other series, really quite good. I mean, they're just solid. They're well done, old school action movies. But the critics hate that. The Sniper series, a range of those stuff. And it used to be just snobbery, but then it became cultural corruption, where they would really just lie. They would say a movie's good that's awful. I mean, The Last Jedi is an atrocious film. And I get, we're going to reverse your expectations, subvert your expectations. Otherwise, it's called making crap, is what that is. But
absolutely.
But the whole dynamic of what they've done, but the upside has been is it's opened the door to independent, honest voices like what you're doing at Geeks and Gamers, because there's such an appetite for it, because you can't get it from the institutional critics.
Absolutely.
Jeremy, let's I want to ask you one question. I tried to look up some of your controversies. For whatever the reason, there was one guy, let me just see if this is going to ring a bell. His name is $3 Theater, who said, "Let me tell you the tale of Glassjaw." Jeremy, glass jaw, Jeremy. Now, I watched this video, and we're talking about confession through projection. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is I watched that guy's video. All I see is pure confession through projection. But Glassjaw Jimmy said that he called you out and then faulted you for retaliating against him. I don't fully appreciate the context, but I figured it would be a fun anecdote to maybe explore. Do you want to inform the crowd?
I really I don't know specifically what he's talking about there. Obviously that's the Boulder King himself. And he's so pathetic at this point because he's ruined his internet persona and his career to the point where no one respects him. So he's always, and I mean always, punching up. I've spoken with him on multiple occasions. None of them ended up good. I tried to put a good foot forward. The first time we ever talked was on Geeks and Gamers when he was going after me. He apologized for going after me. We had a good conversation. We even had a good conversation after the fact. And I thought, okay, that's cool, man. I don't listen to what the internet says about people. I let people, tell me who they are directly. And then not long after that, he started going after me again. I'm like, I thought we were good. And so I was like, all right, what, I guess the internet was right about it. Then there was another time on the High Council when I was part of that, and we brought him on and he got roasted. And there was another time where he was like mad about something Doomcock said. And I was making a video on it, and I really embarrassed him with 3 other people on his channel that all hated me. And now it's to the point where I just won't respond anymore, and the desperation is set in. I mean, that's really all I can say about it. It's just pure desperation that I just won't acknowledge this person anymore because they just constantly going after me, Gary, and anybody else that's more relevant, which is almost everyone at this point. So I don't know specifically that incident because there's been so many videos made about me from that crowd. I don't know specifically that incident.
And all I know, the video that I saw had as many thumbs up as thumbs down, and even I seen that his own audience was saying, "We don't care about this," and go back to. I don't know what he does, and I'm not trying to be demeaning. I just I was looking for controversies because one has to do that now before having anyone on, lest you invite someone on who has a controversy so great you get canceled by association. But Jimmy, one thing that I've seen, and I think I know why it is, you get accused of the ists and the isms.
All the time,
anti-Asian, misogynist.
Well, hang on.
Is it strictly because of your views on these movies where if you criticize, I don't know enough of them to even know which ones star Asian characters or women characters or minority, but if you dump on the movie, you're going to get called the ism of whoever leads in that movie. Is that basically how it works?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's just if you don't follow the latest NPC download. I mean, so if you don't like a movie that the woke media has decided is the greatest, brave, and stunning film of all time, just like when Black Panther came out, I literally gave Black Panther an 8 out of 10 and got called a Klan member.
I mean, what was fascinating about Black Panther is its subtextual message. It was a very interesting subtextual message.
Absolutely. And I haven't seen it since. And so that kind of speaks volumes to the fact that I did enjoy it the first time I watched it. I was like, okay, but I got to think, but I've never even cared to go back and revisit it. But I gave it an 8 out of 10 and they called me a Klan member. Like, oh my God, what do you want? Like, if you don't blindly praise something and just call it the greatest thing ever, because Black Panther was formed as I understand that there's a lot of hyperbole with what I'm saying, but it was kind of billed as like the first time Black people have been in a movie, in a lot of ways. They're like, Black people have never been in a movie before. This is the greatest moment ever. It was
sold as like an alternative origin story rather than just a comic book character. Here's an origin story that they've been keeping secret for. It's like, okay, it's still fake, everybody. It's still a fictional story.
It is. So, I mean, basically, if you just don't blindly praise and talk about how important the diversity is in the film, they're going to label you that. They just are. They've even got to the point where now they call women sexist. What is it? Is it internalized misogyny? Is that what they call it now? Or,
Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy.
Sorry, Robert. Well, I think I might have laughed at that. Just so everybody knows, repeated because the headline in the LA Times was over the top.
Yeah, that Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy.
It's absolutely, man. It's unbelievable. I did have. Am I allowed to share my screen so I can show you something?
Oh, go ahead. Let's see.
To answer your previous question.
How do you know how to do this? I've been doing streams. We've been doing streams for 2 years. I still don't know how to do this.
Actually, don't do it. Don't. No. Oh, I don't know why I'm hearing there. I was hearing. Why am I hearing your audio?
I have no idea what's going on right now. All I know is I saw someone else in the backstage, and it was your screen. I won't bring it up until I know what's going on. Voting for. Oh, by the way, Robert, actually, fill us in. When is the recall vote?
I mean, it's ongoing now. I forget when the final in-person voting. But remember, it's California, so the votes get to keep coming in after election day.
All right, hang on. I was trying to find it. Yes, for some reason I started hearing your audio, Viva, and it was confusing the hell out of me. I don't know what happened. I don't know what you clicked, but we're good now. It's gone. It's gone. But on the previous question about the person that you said made the video about me, and what did you say they said? Oh, glass jaw, Jeremy?
Jaw, you go down whenever someone fights back. I mean, it was just fun. I was trying to find.
Oh no! I got a good response for you. So the last time that there was any potential direct interaction between me and that person, I'm sharing my screen now, right here. Boom! Here you go.
And I'm gonna bring this up. I'm gonna add to stream. I've never done this before. I feel naked and vulnerable.
It's okay. It's okay. So right here, this is a stream going on where I'm being absolutely roasted. Okay. And the person here in the beanie is a friend of mine, and they sent me the link to the stream without the other two knowing it. Okay. Now, the person here on the bottom is the person that said I was Glassjaw Jeremy. Okay. So here's what happens.
I think you had a legit criticism of Jeremy. If he wants to come on, I'll talk to him. The way I view it is that I was polite and I was fair. Yeah. That's how I view that video. It wasn't hating. If I wanted to attack him, if I wanted to do that, I would have done it. That wasn't my goal. This is not kill stream. I don't have kill streams on my channel. Well, I mean, to be fair, you'd make a lot more money if you did. But just say Jeremy is in my backstage. Oh boy. Okay. Oh. All right, I'm gonna go. I gotta run. My phone's almost dead anyway, so I'll talk to you guys all later. All right.
My phone's almost dead too, and I'm here.
All right. Okay, Jeremy, I'll be fair.
So yeah, so that's who called me Glassjaw Jeremy. So you can take what you want from that.
That's good. You know, the point is, for good. I guess it's for good or for bad, but probably for good. Robert and I have avoided a lot of internet drama. Although I guess we did get into some of it with some other. We didn't get into it directly with lawyers, but subject matter, but never actual direct conflict with or with other channels. But that's fun stuff from an outside perspective. It's not stress I would ever want or need in my life. Okay,
yeah. A couple years ago, I don't know if it was a couple years. Yeah, I guess it was about a year or two ago. I did this thing twice. I did this thing where it was called the hater stream, where I literally did a stream on Ryan Kendall's channel. It was right when he first started and he was trying to get monetized. I went and I did an open invite to anyone that hates me that wants to come on and debate me. We did 2 of these, and it ended up turning out where most of them would come on and like, oh, Jeremy, I like you. I'm a big fan. You know, like it was literally not a whole lot of fighting. They trash me to get the attention, but when it comes to confronting me, and these videos are still up on Ryan Kendall's channel. One of them was called the hater stream. The other was called the common ground stream, because I wanted the second one to sound a little more like, okay, I don't want to call it a hater stream. Let's call it the common ground stream so we can find common ground. And most of the people that hate me didn't even think about it. They acted like, oh yeah, I'm too busy that day or something. And so I did used to try to talk to everybody that would criticize me, and I just realized they're not interested in conversations. They're interested in using whatever they can with my name for whatever good they think my name is, to get some attention. And so I kind of just moved away from it. And now the more I've moved away from it, the more they've kind of amped up to pretend that I'm avoiding them. And hey, good play on them. Again, if you can build a channel off of hating me, go for it. Like, I'll send you pictures for thumbnails. I really don't mind. That's how I look at it. If you can build an audience off of hating me, that means I'm relevant enough to have a channel built off of hating me. That means I'm doing something okay. That's kind of how I look at it.
What was it like the first time you faced a smear campaign or a hit piece?
It was, I mean, it's all in kind of like phases. So like the first time it ever happened on a real scale was my history with Star Wars Explained. I don't know if that's something you found, Viva, when you were looking, but I had about 20,000 subs at the time. And I was making a lot of videos about different things going on with Star Wars and Lucasfilm. And I had not had any beef with anyone to my knowledge up to that point. And then a YouTube channel named Star Wars Explained, who's a big Star Wars channel. It's got like 500,000 or 600,000 subs. I think at the time he had like 400 or 500,000. He makes a video on me and he goes after me. And he's like, I'm like, why am I in Star Wars Explained video?
When he goes after you, in what respect? I know nothing of this, but like, how did he
accuse? So he came out with this new show, never had done before. And what's that? What's that show on HBO from that left-wing lunatic, John Oliver?
Yeah.
This week or last week tonight or whatever. Okay. So he does a play off that, and it's called This Week in Clickbait. And so he starts. This is the first time he'd ever done it, and I was the first person featured in his video about clickbaiting about a story about the Solo posters not having the blaster in them. It turned out I was right. And he also used it to go after Star Wars Theory. Star Wars Theory is the biggest YouTube channel, who's a friend of mine now. I didn't know Star Wars Theory at the time, but I wake up to these messages and they're like, you're in Star Wars Explained video. And I'm like, what? Like Star Wars Explained he doesn't make content like that, like going after people. So this has kind of been a respectable channel for all of these years. And suddenly now you're going after other creators. And that was kind of where you were starting to see the breakdown in the shill coverage, getting jealous of us calling out the bullshit. And so the first response I made, and I respectedly, I took the high road. I'm like, Star Wars Explained called me out, I appreciate it, nothing but respect. And I took the high road. And then he said at the end of the video, he was like, this is the bullshit that I hate from these people. He's like, I really hope I never have to make a video like this again because I'm so against clickbait. And the biggest problem is that hopefully we just don't have clickbait. I hope I never have to make this again. After all that, after I took the high road, he comes out the next week with another episode of This Week in Clickbait, and he has merch ready to go. And I'm like, how do you have merch?
Confession through projection is what you have right there.
Exactly. And so I'm like, how do you have merch? So when he did that, I'll never forget this. He did. Now I had like 20,000 subs. I'd never had beef with anybody. When he did that, I made a really, really angry video. No like sarcasm or nothing. And I dropped about 150 F-bombs in the video. And in the video, I'm sitting there. I mean, I'm calm. I'm like, and I told him, I said, one of these days, you and I are going to cross paths. We're going to cross paths. And it's not going to be with you behind your 450,000 subs. You're going to have to look me in my eye at a convention or something. And you're going to have to explain yourself. And I was like, I didn't make any threats, but I just said like, we're going to, we're going to see each other face to face. It got age restricted. That was the first time a video had ever got age restricted. I got so scared. I was like, oh my God, what does this mean? I don't know what age restricted means. And so I privated the video because I was scared because I didn't know what that meant. And then more and more beef with me and him back and forth. And this piece of garbage sends other YouTubers to talk to me to try to be I'm like, dude, here's my phone number. Tell him to call me. Like, I don't need to talk to you. I need to talk to him. Long story short, Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. I made a point to go confront Star Wars YouTubers that have come after me. And I did confront multiple ones. It was fun, but he and a lot of people say his sister, but him and his wife, I attempted to confront them. Now, prior to getting there, in private messages with the middle person he was trying to get, I said, hey, ask them if they will talk to me in private. No cameras, no nothing. I just want to put this to bed because I'm tired of fighting. You know what I mean? I just want us to talk, shake hands, and maybe agree to disagree. They refused to meet me. Okay. Meanwhile, playing the victim the whole time, saying Jeremy sends his army after me. So I saw them and I go, hey, Alex, hey, how's it going, man? Nice to meet you. And I shook his hand. There's a ton of people around. His wife literally is pulling his arm away and he kind of fast walks off. Wouldn't even speak with me. Wouldn't even speak with me. Tried to kill my channel at 20,000 subs. This is all documented. I'm pretty sure this video is still up on his channel and everything. But anyway, that was my first beef right there.
And
you
picked up a ton of subs from this, right? I mean,
yeah.
For good or for bad, when someone with 500,000 picks on someone with 20,000, you're getting traffic and you're getting subs as a result.
Yes,
when they come
100%.
and see. That's amazing.
Oh. Yeah, 100%.
Where did the coming at you with another video line originate from?
I really don't know. You go back, man. I mean, I think this is something all YouTubers deal with because I talk to a lot of YouTubers, some big, some small. Like, there's YouTubers that I talk to, and any YouTuber that ever reach out to me, I understand how I'm controversial. So, like, if they reach out to me, I'm just like, if you don't want me to mention your name, I won't, because I respect private conversations. And there are YouTubers that all of you know that I talk to on a consistent basis on the phone and everything. But, and you know, it's just because I'm friendly with them. But I think everybody deals with this because you go back and watch your older videos and you're like, oh, and I watch some of my old videos and I'm just like, oh God, this is so bad. And I'm probably going to do that like in a year from now, videos I'm doing today. I don't know where the coming to you with another video thing really started. It's just something that I started doing a few times and I used to see it in my comments and people are just like video. And I think it's just kind of evolved from seeing the audience respond. I don't know how I came up with it or why I came up with it. That was just the thing I started to say when I turned the camera on, and it turned into this thing where I think Ivan Ortega, who's part of my Geeks and Gamers team now, before he was part of the Geeks and Gamers team, he took this mashup of me saying video every like 40 or 50 different ones, and it's just like a 3-minute video of me going video different, like it's
yeah, that's what happens when you have enough content out there, like the PewDiePie mashups where there's like a video of him going like the Italian.
Yeah. So I mean, it's cool, man, because that's the audience. Like, you guys have an impact on what we do, and when we see that feedback, like I said this when I was just starting out, where positive comments and trust me, positive comments still have a huge impact on me now. But in the early stages, that positive reinforcement is very important for a creator because we don't know if we're gonna get ripped apart or if anybody's going to care. So when you start seeing that positive reinforcement, so when I just kept seeing people reacting to the video, I just kept running with it and it just turned into this thing. So it's one of those moments that you don't really know how it happened, but you're glad it happened. And the audience had a lot to do with that.
All right. Now, I guess winding up, we're getting to 2 hours. What is next for you, Jeremy? What's next for Geeks and Gamers? Above and Beyond, Alex Jones is on Friday Night Tights this Friday.
Yes, I am, man. I am so excited for this, and it's gonna be crazy. We know that it's gonna bring us a lot of attention, positively and some negatively, and that's okay. I think we've had enough experience with this to now we can reach that level, I think. But yeah, Friday Night Tights, Alex Jones, Nerdrotics channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to that. Next for Geeks and Gamers is just to continue to move in the direction we're moving, and the like I'm gonna keep saying it, but like someone like Robert Barnes having the confidence in what we've done with Sports Wars to come to me and Ryan and say, hey, I wanna do some stuff with you guys. That type of stuff right there gives me the confidence to continue moving in the direction I want to move, because spoiler alert, I'm not as arrogant as I play on the internet. I need confidence boosts and I need positive reinforcement. And when you have people that are highly respected like Robert and people like Gary and just people on my team, I love to get those connections. We're going to be in Boston next month because Sports Wars was someone that's a big supporter of Sports Wars got tickets to the return of Tom Brady to New England. So we're going to be covering that. And then we're going to do a little mini meetup with our community. And then when we get back, that's when we're going to really start getting some of these consistent shows on the main channel, the Twitch channel and everything like that. The website is something that will turn into more of a team. Like pretty much everybody that's on the team will be blogging on the website. That isn't happening right now. In my opinion, the website versus where I want it to go is very bare bones right now. That's not to say it doesn't have content, but based on what I want it to have, it's very bare bones. But my team does a great job over there, and they're finally in a place where I feel like they can take on the next level of what we want to do. But I want to take Geeks and Gamers to another level. And the thing we stand for, and the thing I will always preach, Geeks and Gamers stands for individuality. I am the loudest voice there. So a lot of times Geeks and Gamers gets defined off of Jeremy and Jeremy's opinion and Jeremy's politics. And I get that. That's par for the course because that's just how it is. But as we get more voices that will elevate other voices at Geeks and Gamers, that's what I want. I want people that are going to try to elevate their voice. That's going to make me have to continue to elevate mine. But Geeks and Gamers is about individuality. The brand itself has no opinion. Zero. Geeks and Gamers has no opinion. The individuals within Geeks and Gamers can have whatever opinions they want. And that's how it's always going to be because I'm confident enough to stand by my team and my team is confident enough to stand by me. And that's how it's always going to be. That's what the vision will remain. And I think with that type of vision in the world we're in, I think that's something that a lot of people are going to connect to moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's honest, authentic, transparent information from true fans of comics, film, TV shows, games, and sports. And there's a great need and appetite for it because of the politicized corruption. As Viva would say, politics ruins everything, and it has ruined many of the critics. So the only way to answer it is to provide the service that Geeks and Gamers provides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I see you, chat. I love all of you. I appreciate all of you turning out. It was an honor to be here. Seriously. It's
great to have you. You'll find out that Alex Jones is much more human than the media would have you believe. He's
a huge movie fan. He has, he had a whole political take on the Kong movie, not the last one, but the one 2 times ago that forecast aspects of the pandemic. So he's broadly, widely divergent interest and laid back, fun guy, and is happy to just chat about anything and everything.
I'm looking forward to it.
You'll have a good one. Jeremy, I'll put all the links in the pinned comment. Everyone in the chat, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the support. Share this away. Jeremy, Robert, stick around. We'll say our proper goodbyes. Everyone else, enjoy the rest of the week. We will see